Greetings, Starfinders and Pathfinders. I'm Dustin Knight, and welcome to Infinite Possibilities, How to Write for Pathfinder Infinite. I'm joined here today with the very talented other Infinite authors that you see here on screen. So please go ahead and introduce yourselves. We'll start with Vanessa.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Hoskins. I am a developer for the narrative team at Paizo, but I am also one of the co-authors on Vellum and Lace, along with my other co-author, Helen Savor.
Hi, my name is James Beck. I am one of the co-founders of Eldritch Osiris Games, a workers co-op for Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Hi, I am Tony Saunders. I am one of the co-founders for Team Plus. We love Pathfinder Infinite, and that's our home.
Right, and for those who don't know, Pathfinder Infinite is an amazingly awesome online marketplace and idea place, you might even call it, for authors and publishers to release work that has compatibility with the Lost Omens and Starfinder setting, using assets from Paizo in order to create some of the greatest, most incredibly cool game aids, adventures, third-party products, character options, everything you could find there. There's so much awesome stuff on there. And it's really taken off on its own and created a number of these awesome communities and brought forth all these new creators into the Paizo sphere here. But before I trail on anymore, I would like to ask our panelists, what excites you the most about Pathfinder Infinite? We'll start with Vanessa.
I love the fact that you get to use Galarian's lore. Like Pathfinder, Starfinder, they're great systems, mechanically sound, but the lore is the part that gets me most excited. I just love the world and I love the richness of it. And so with Infinite, I really like the idea that I can use the places, the deities, the feel of Galarian in things that I write. Specifically, we write, Helen and I write Vellum and Lace, which is a episodic series, a narrative about two women in their early 20s just going to the big city of Absalom and getting into trouble. And we couldn't write that without being able to use Galarian in the setting. Otherwise, I mean, we could write about disaster women doing stupid things, but it wouldn't have the same, I don't know, feel to it. Being able to write in an established world just gives you so much narrative connective tissue to bring the world to life without having to make it whole cloth. It's a huge advantage when writing something of this nature.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. James, how about yourself? What have you found really exciting about Pathfinder Infinite?
Yeah, so one of the things that I feel like everybody here can echo that I feel is really important to the Pathfinder Infinite space specifically is the connections that you're going to make inevitably. One of the things that really helped EOG, and I don't want to speak on the whole company. There's quite a few of us, but one of the things is that we really like working with people, and I could name drop like probably about 20 different names here of amazing authors we've had the chance to like speak and work with or even interact daily with. So I would say not only having access to all of Pathfinder, I mean literally the setting, all of Starfinder, but also access to really interesting minds in the community that really challenge and make you think about a lot about what you're doing and specifically how you're going about it, I guess would be it. I don't know, really cool people.
Right. Yeah, the community is amazing. We've been able to see a lot of people come together, and they have projects where they just thought they'd have to do it solo, but they're able to find people either on the Pathfinder 2e creation subreddit or the Infinite Discord at infinite.net or the Paizo forums or their own Discords or Twitter, and come together and really collaborate with each other and either as editors or authors or artists and create products that come out just really, really top tier. And Tony, on to you.
Yeah, so question. I mean, just Yeah, no, definitely gotta give a shout out to the people, and especially the Infinite Possibilities Discord. I mean, that's where Gary and I connected. So really, Team Plus kind of owes a lot just to the community in itself, just for finding itself. But I'd say the Lost Omens books are absolutely amazing for giving Infinite authors really fertile ground to just, like they go through these settings in such a very brilliant way, because not only do they bring more options, but they leave you asking questions about some of the valleys in between. And that's really where the Infinite authors get to kind of play and have these really cool, revisiting areas that maybe were a little less touched, with some new options that players can kind of sink their teeth into.
Right, and what's nice about this marketplace is you don't have to release a 200-page book. It doesn't have to have that kind of minimum. You could go ahead and release that 5 or 6-page book about an arc, just a book where you're like, I want a Dullahan ancestry. So I don't want to write 7 or 8 different undead ancestries. I just want the one. You couldn't get that published and printed as a physical paper book and ever make up that cost, but being able to release it on this platform that's so readily available and people are checking out all the time really makes it possible for you to delve into those really niche and narrow ideas that Paizo loves throwing in their books. And of course, you're able to do it with one of my favorite things about publishing Pathfinder Infinite, the art assets. I frequently say that if Pathfinder Infinite came out 10 years earlier, I would have been writing 10 years sooner. That was always my big hurdle getting into any kind of writing was, wow, artwork is pretty pricey, and books do not usually do very well without them. But Paizo provides all sorts of community content artwork, from the blogs to the stuff you'll see, a lot of the stuff you see in the wiki, to art packs that you could download on Pathfinder Infinite. And it really makes the products pop. It really helps fuel the imaginations of both the writers and the readers to get all these different art assets. And before we move on to the next question, though, I do want to point out to chat that we are more than willing to take your questions. So please go ahead and pop them to chat. Anyone out there wants to write more, it's really not I mean, there's some competition in that we do check out the top 10 board and make little memes about it frequently enough. But we want to see more books. We want more content. I mean, I want more books for my game. When I see a new book being released, I get excited. Download it, buy it, download it, figure out how to integrate it into my game. I mean, we're fans, we're players, we're GMs as well. Excuse me there. To ask another question, though, do you have any advice that you want to give people who want to get into writing on Pathfinder Infinite, but aren't sure where to get started? Vanessa?
I think the best thing to write, or where to start, is write what you're excited about. So if you get really excited about the mechanics and you are like, it would be really cool if there was an archetype that did this thing, then write that archetype. If you thought, well, I wish there was a magic item that did X, Y, and Z, write that item. Like Dustin was saying, you don't have to have a 200-page book full of content. You can just say, I have this one archetype that I think is pretty cool, and you can put it up there. And if you are unsure of like pricing or whatever, you can always price it like pay what you want. You can do all sorts of things like that to make it easier. There's a lot of tools out there. People, like Dustin was saying, like hurdles in publishing are, well, where do I get the art? Where do I get layouts? Where do I get stuff like this? There are templates out there that will help you with the layout. There are templates out there that will help you create a really tight looking product. And you can grab the art from not only the packages that Paizo provides, but you can also look at any of the non-photograph art that is all over the blog for the last over a decade. Tons and tons of art there. And I think James said there's a ton of, or maybe it was Chad, I can't remember. It's been a long day. There's a ton of really good art on Pathfinder Infinite that you can also use, that you can license for super cheap and then just put in your products. And more than that, if you're still like, why, I still can't find the exact thing I need, check out the Infinite Possibilities Discord. There are tons of people doing collaborations on there. I know that I have a couple pending collaborations with some artists that I can't art. I can kind of pencil sketch, but I found some artists that can do the art pieces for some products that I was thinking about doing. And then we'll just, share any money that we make. And I think that going out there and just doing it is the best way to get started.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And if you check out the resources channel on the Infinite Possibilities Discord, you will find links to some amazing, even royalty-free art or very affordable stock art, and links to people who have just assembled and dropped tons of Paizo community artwork from the blog. So you could look through it a little more easily and quickly, kind of separated by style or ancestry or what have you like that. So in addition to resources like tips from experienced third-party authors and writers on how to price stuff or how to format things or what programs people use, people are always sharing their advice there. How about James? Do you have any advice for first-time would-be writers who are nervous about getting into Pathfinder Infinite?
Yeah, it was one of the things that really interested me in Pathfinder Infinite to start, was getting into how to figure out how to publish it and how to just kind of get your name out there. I think one of the things that a lot of freelancers or anybody who's been in the industry for a while will tell you is that getting your name out there is, even if it's like and I don't mean this offensively, if it's a terrible product, it's still your name out there. You are still managing to grow and learn and change. And what's really nice is that there's people out there that are willing to work and develop with you. I started a good chunk of my writing career on Pathfinder Infinite. From that, I branched out to meet tons of different people that made Eldritch Osiris games possible. And now, we've certainly done a lot in the last year. I think we did a count of like 90 products across various authors, titles, and platforms. And that I seriously think that if you can manage to just find even 3 or 4 people that really can reside and feel comfortable giving you honest feedback on your work, I think that is the most important thing possible. I think all of us here, either experienced or not, can talk about why that is so important. I mean, we literally pulled people that we felt comfortable in with their writing style, with their energy, I don't want to say vibes, but I definitely think that if you are willing to just even just say, hey, I have this idea for this one feat, about for Assassin, it's called the Batman, having somebody be able to proofread that,
Right.
It's a vigilante, it's a new feat for the vigilante archetype. Find it. Yeah,
the flying Batman, much better.
Exactly. But that's my point, though, is that you have somebody there who might be a little bit more knowledgeable. I'll admit it. I'm not an editor. I'm not a good, I'm a good author. I can hype up products, but, editing, I leave to other people. That's my idea, though. It's like, I could always ask somebody, I thankfully have the benefit of Eldritch Osiris games, but even before then, I had people in the community like Dustin who literally, and I say this lovingly, live called me out on a stream once about my writing. That caused me to actually think about and want to write better. And thankfully a year later, it's gotten a lot better. But yeah, I'd say just being willing to just talk with people. I think so many people get really caught up in the minutia of it's really difficult to just put something on a platform and just be like, I wrote this. Hi. Just be just be really open about it. I think that's really what makes it makes Infinite so great, is just how many conversations do we have daily on the Discord, about different ideas we all have. Seriously. So long story short, talk with people. I promise. They're awesome.
Right. And Tony, do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that comes back to me is I think back to when I was just kind of getting started out, and what I would probably advise people is if you are homebrewing, if you are taking the time right now to write new stuff for your game because you feel creative, because you love Galarian, because you love the game, don't think that being just doing these things for your home game, like that's the only thing that you can do with it. You can take that next step and you can go and put this material in other people's hands where they can get a hold of it. Like when I was first kind of like brewing a little bit on my own, I got some really great advice from Mike Sayer that was basically like, go for it, try reaching out and seeing if some of these publishers need help, if they need to get any of their material written, because there's a lot of them out there. And then I got like a couple of gigs. I worked with Legendary Games for a while, and now I'm working with Dairy for Team Plus and doing books that we're really proud of, and doing really well. So I think that if you're thinking to yourself, oh well, like I just write stuff for my home games, but I couldn't really. Like, no, you can. I'm telling you right now. Let me be the person that tells you you can go out and write something for yourself. You can put it out there in other people's hands, and you can make 1, 2, 10, 1,000 tables a little bit happier because you gave them something that they didn't have before.
I mean, that's
awesome.
100% it.
Oh, great. All right. So, we got a lot of great questions from chat that I'm looking through here, and I'm going to start with this one that's very important to the very nature of Pathfinder Infinite. GM Subterradan asked, are there any extra issues involved with publishing Infinite Adventures or other content that ties into official Paizo adventures? Things like expanding on NPCs or locations, introducing side quests, etc. And that is an excellent source of inspiration for Pathfinder Infinite. Just to take this a little on myself, there's an excellent zero-level prequel adventure, I believe, for Fly Free or Die in Starfinder Infinite. There is a sequel to the beginner box, I believe it's called Wrecked Upon the Shore. And I know Helen Savor even wrote a side quest that you could throw into your Agents of Edgewatch AP. On top of, we have a bunch of conversions, very popular conversions of some first edition APs into Pathfinder 2nd edition. So Pathfinder Infinite is a perfect place for expanding on existing adventure content. Another one of my favorites is there's a Starfinder Society scenario that takes place in this large prison complex, and the author went on Pathfinder Infinite and released I want to say it's about 30-page gazetteer to the prison. So if you want to run that adventure with more information you could ever possibly need, there it is.
I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off too much, but I think one of the things, like, to further expand upon that is a product line that I think either all of us here or most of us here have managed to touch in one way or another was Queerfinder, which literally expands upon large sections of Galarian. I mean, I personally have not written for Queerfinder, I'll be honest there, but I've read through it. It's great content. I know people who have worked on it.
Nobody's perfect, James.
Seriously, I know. Look, I try my best, but no, seriously, like, that's the thing, is that they managed to take stuff that is in Galarian and build upon it and really create something unique. Obviously, it's through the lens of queerness and being proud of that. I just remembered, actually, EOG did a team up with Queerfinder. This is what my mind has been like all day, where I'm forgetting stuff. but yeah,
Paizo
that's the idea, though.
Paizo
crazy. They don't tell you that. But no, seriously,
right?
Like, that's what Queerfighters managed to do, is take stuff in Galarian and really expand upon it, whether it's be through the deities, through new cities, new settings, NPCs, anything really. I think they've managed to do a lot in their last few issues.
Definitely. We have a question here just for Vanessa. For your Vellum and Lace collaboration, was it created purely as a planned and written story? Was it a project where you played out, or was it a product where you played out the elements and then wrote about them as a story?
So this isn't, Vellum and Lace wasn't like, oh, we played an adventure and then we wrote it as a narrative. It was completely planned out as a narrative, but it is still rooted in the world of Galarian, and the characters' actions are still rooted in the mechanics. For example, we actually created, I'm going to spoiler alert, the characters are second level. So just high enough that they can get a free archetype and do some interesting things. And so we wrote out the characters. Yeah. So we wrote out the characters so that we knew, like, oh, I know that I'm like Jellica, the character that I mostly main on there, is a improvised weapon master. So she fights with like a pack of playing cards in the very first very first episode, and by rooting it in the world, it grounds us, and it makes sure that anything that is happening in the story is something that could have played out at the table, but it is a bespoke story that that Helen and I came up with. One thing, shout out to Helen, my co-author. When I wanted to do Vellum and Lace, I had this idea for these characters, but honestly was a little nervous about my own lack of experience writing prose, writing a full narrative story. And I went to Helen, who I know has published stories before, and said, hey, do you want to write this with me? Partially just so I had someone whose expertise I could rely on. And I'll tell you, we both have different strengths in prose, and by being able to work together, we're able to, content edit and go through each other's documents and chapters and ask each other about it and really collaborate on it. And it's made it a fantastic product because we both have very different points of view on writing, and by being able to assist each other and aid each other, I think has really brought a lot more life to it. So if there is something you are considering, hey, I want to do, but I'm a little nervous about it, find yourself a co-author and work with somebody else, get another point of view. I know after the first arc that we finished for Vellum and Lace, I feel a lot more confident as a prose author than I did before. So, yeah. That was way more than the question asked, but I wanted to talk about
that's fine. Yeah. Helen was in chat saying even in fiction you use the free archetype system.
Even in fiction, you got it.
Right? All right. So we got another question here. This is just a quick answer I'm going to give here. I've been asked by a couple people now, will there be Pathfinder for Modern or Space? Which I suggest checking out Starfinder for Space. And someone else asking, is Infinite for publishing alternate world settings? You are free to write, if you wanted to write 1940s style Galarian, I suppose you could do that on Infinite. Its strength really is the ability to write within the setting of the Lost Omens and or Pact World setting, or setting agnostic material. That really is the great strength here of Pathfinder Infinite. We had another question here. How hard is it to find someone to help with making your content VTT friendly? Does anyone want to jump on this?
If James or I could probably either one.
No, Tony, you got it.
Tony, go for it.
I talk too much.
So I think the best way to probably try to find the right people to do a VTT implementation is one, just first of all, write something that you feel like will inspire people to want to use it. And as soon as people start to want to use it, it should be easy to probably try to transition it to the next step, which is finding someone in like the VTT spaces, which I have to shout out the Foundry VTT Pathfinder 2e Discord. They do a lot of really great work over there. That's actually where I ended up interacting with quite a few individuals that now Team Plus has. I think we're up to 4 devs officially, 1 part-time helper that refuses to officially join the team, but frequently jumps in and offers a lot of help. So thank you to Kale. And then we have a couple of people trying to help with the Path Builder integrations Malcolm Ross and Josh White. So it comes down to, first, you want to make sure that people are, because it's not an easy thing to do the VTT thing, and it can be expensive, especially if you're doing it separate or if you're doing it part of the original product. It kind of depends on how you want to do that. So make sure there's a demand there first. But finding the people, there's really great VTT communities where you can basically, get in touch with them, see if someone's interested in doing the work, and then, work something out with them. And then there's also the dreaded, which a lot of Infinite authors might find themselves in, and some don't mind it, is to do it yourself. Because Foundry VTT and Pathbuilder 2E are two really common ones. They have a lot of documentation. There's a lot of ways to guide you through the process. It can be done. It is not as bad. I've actually done a decent amount of data entry myself on occasion. So it's just one of those things where if you have to find the time and the patience to do it, you can do it yourself if you need to. And use those communities. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I find it actually really helps improve your product. I found transcribing a lot of my stuff into Foundry, I found a lot of like, oh, yeah, I worded this feat a little bit wrong. Oops. Got to go back to the PDF and change that, which that was that. But yes, the Foundry Discord is immensely helpful. You could go on there and just be like, I don't know why this isn't working. Can someone help? And just show them your code, and people will volunteer to be like, oh, yeah, you forgot a line here. And they'll I can't guarantee that they'll help, of course, but they have been immensely helpful. And I did an interview with one of them, so there is might be a little outdated, but there is a video guide on how to put your stuff up on Foundry, somewhere up on YouTube there. If you look up Pathfinder Infinite Foundry integration, you should be able to find it. All right. Here we have. So we have some people asking about the remaster and whether or not that's going to affect your products in any way, shape, or form. I just want to throw in here real quick that one of my favorite parts of publishing on Pathfinder Infinite is it really opened my mind to how easy it is to errata digital only products when you're the only the main shareholder, when you don't have to go to the team and ask everybody, when people come to you with a minor thing like, this says DC equal to, like, you put caster level, not class level, and you'll be like character level, yeah, and you'll be like, oh, okay,
sure,
thank you,
whatever.
I'm gonna fix that real quick. And if it's a major fix, you could even send out emails to everyone who's previously purchased, and they will all know, oh, cool. And you can even throw in an extra feat in there if you feel like, I don't want to hassle everybody, but you know what? Free feat, because I got another idea. Yeah. Does anyone here happen to have any... Oh, go ahead, please.
Sure, I'll speak to it. So the remaster stuff is going to be published under the ORC license rather than the OGL. From a legal standpoint, this is the largest difference. We already know that the rule system is going to be compatible, so you shouldn't need to worry about any of your OGL published Infinite content being somehow incompatible with the new remastered rules. However, once those rules are released, if you want to write something that is a remastered based product, let's say it's using one of the new spells or the new take on War Priest or something like that, what you'll want to do is you'll want to publish that under the ORC license rather than the OGL. So this gets into a little bit of the legal ramifications of publishing. I know that there's really good FAQs out there that help you with that, and I'm sure that those will all be updated with the remaster and ORC license information once those are out. One thing you could do, now that I'm thinking about it, you could publish something now under OGL and then update it for the revised rules later and just attach the file. You can have multiple files attached in a product. So you can say, oh, here's the remastered rules version. And that way there's a couple different things that someone can look at if they're like, oh, well, I want to use your product, but I'm using the remastered rules and I don't want to have to do any conversions. Okay, cool. Let's just like Dustin said, re-release it, send an email out to everyone that owns it saying, hey, there is now a remastered file if you want to go grab that.
Exactly. And on the topic of mechanics, how do you make sure the content you publish is balanced and not too weak or too strong? Is it just a strong grip on the system, or are there any specific steps you take to make sure that it's ready to be shared for others to use?
Can I take this one?
Please.
Editors. I say this, I genuinely mean it. So I think when you get more and more used to writing for Pathfinder, writing for actually writing for any sort of TTRPG, you sort of start getting into a rhythm. You start to understand like internal balance. But I honestly say that editors are what really are like become the unsung heroes in this case, because I've written tons and tons for Pathfinder, whether it's through various products, whether it's, EOG, Sinclair's, so on and so forth. Having a discussion with editors or people who are also experienced really helps, because I think even the most experienced of authors will find something is maybe something off. You just didn't catch it. A lot of us maybe can write off of a gut feeling and just be like, I know in my head this feels balanced. But having somebody just go there and like what Dustin said earlier, like you wrote caster level instead of, class DC. You end up like finding some smaller things, and editors that really know their work and, really have played with the system, really understand the nuance of the system really helps. And, even if you don't have like a full dedicated editor, having just somebody else in the room with you and just saying, hey, this feat reminds me of power attack. And so I know that means the scaling for this might seem a little off or a little too strong or maybe even a little too weak. I've had both ends of the game happen where I've written for something that was maybe a little underpowered for a level, 14 feet, and something I may have written that would have just destroyed the game because it did infinite amounts of damage. I did not write that, by the way.
What?
But, my point exactly. Infinite amount of
Just
damage
because it's Pathfinder Infinite doesn't mean infinite damage, okay?
I'm telling you, I'm thinking 10 steps ahead. No, but seriously, editors, like we are so blessed to have Dylan, because Dylan is a very thorough, to the point where I see a document where I'm like, I feel really proud in this, and I see about 50 comments on it. I'm like, I'm a little less proud of this. Seriously, having somebody there and just who plays the game is probably the most important thing when it comes to knowing if your content is too strong or too weak. I joke about an infinite damage, ability, but, if I feel like that's strong, like really, underpowered, having somebody in there just go, James, stop, think about what you're doing for 2 seconds is, pretty good. I have yet to write the infinite damage, but, maybe April Fool's next year.
Right. And it is nice, too, that Pathfinder 2e is such a modular system that, like, not only is it modular, but it's modular on top of such a strong mathematical chassis that as long as you follow basic design principles, you're far less likely to break things than with other game systems potentially. And on these products that we release, we could also very frequently release notes, sidebar stuff saying like, I intended for this to be used only with this, this, and this. You might have problems if you encounter using this ability with this one spell or something. So maybe talk to your players about that. Usually there's better ways you could go about doing that. There's more elegant solutions than that, but if need be, that is always a final solution you could rely on here. But I have one more question here that I want Vanessa to cover. We have a question here in chat that does the OGL to orc switch have any impact on the community use package?
Yes, it sure does. So we actually had some comments in chat from Mark Moreland, our Director of Brand Strategy, and they were fantastic. The OGL to org switch will definitely have an effect on the community use policy and compatibility licenses. Those will need to be updated as part of this process, but we do not have any new versions of those released yet. I mean, the orc isn't technically released yet, so, but you can definitely expect to see updated versions of those. The other thing, while we're back on that subject, I talked before about you could always release like an OGL version and an orc version of a product. make sure that when you do that, or if you release a orc version of a product, that you do not also use OGL only material. So anything that you could do a side-by-side on people, I'm sure that people will, anything that doesn't appear in the remaster books shouldn't be something that you include. So if you see that spells are removed during the remaster, you don't want to include references to those spells in your orc materials. So just be aware that even though they are compatible rule systems, from a legal licensing standpoint, you want to keep things fairly siloed.
Good answer. Very, very good answer. And back on the topic of balance, I also try to use my stuff in my own home game as much as I can. It does come off a little weird sometimes when there's this random enemy that will show up, but I'll be like, they understand what I'm doing and kind of appreciate it too.
Why is there a fire elemental in my Aqua campaign?
Because I'm releasing Fire Elementals of Galarian, so it's there. All right. So there's another question here I wanted to definitely get. Someone was asking, does Pathfinder Infinite have clauses about not selling the product or derivatives of it on other platforms? It does, but you could sell there are some products on there that are kind of Lost Omens variants of third-party products that are what were sold elsewhere before they were sold on Pathfinder Infinite. Like Rogue Genius Games has a Mole People, and then they decided, oh, cool, we can now write about the Mole People of Galarian and what those are like. And we'll add in some extra rules elements, but for the most part, it's a bunch of cool lore on how you could incorporate this ancestry into your campaign, which that is the strength of Pathfinder Infinite is, you could use the setting. And no, you cannot take your book that uses the Galarian setting and then sell it elsewhere because you won't have that licensing agreement elsewhere. So there is that. And of course, I am not a attorney, and if you figure you want to do any of this, you should contact me on it.
True.
And nobody on the stream is giving anything even remotely resembling legal advice. And you can contact there's an email attached to the guide on the Drive-Thru RPG site that you could go to ask further questions for. There's a large guide on the Pathfinder Infinite site near the bottom that you could click on that will have even more information. And there's a lot of these resources available on the Infinite Possibilities Discord that you could find at infinite.net that will you'll be able to find a lot of help there. Oh, here's a fun one. So we'll just go with all of us for this question. We'll start with Vanessa. How do you decide what you want to write next?
Whatever I'm excited about. So with like Vellum and Lace, we had a release schedule, so we had to figure out the story and do it. But for I have several other half-baked projects that I haven't been able to finish and get up there. But there are always things that I start thinking about that I'm like, it would be really cool. This thing. And so I'll usually open a Google Doc, I'll write a bunch of notes, I might write a feed or two, I might write, an item that goes with the idea, whatever it is. But I think that being inspired by the world around you, by other science fiction and fantasy properties, just by your own imagination, I would say whatever you should write next is the thing that you get excited about. It is always easier to write about something you're excited about and excited to write than something you're like, what would be really helpful and sell well? Like, okay, more power to you. But I think you'll have more fun and you'll probably get a better product if it is something that you're really just jazzed to write.
Definitely. And when you hit that bug, when you get that muse, even if you're working on something else, Pathfinder Infinite has the flexibility to allow you to I'm just going to put this aside for now because I could probably crank out a couple thousand words of this that I'm suddenly excited about. That's always an option. James, how about you? How do you find inspiration?
Oh man, I gotta follow Vanessa on that excellent answer. Okay. I mean, passion is such a large part of it, but I think what's really cool is that you can start to explore things that maybe you just haven't seen before. One of the things that I really find really cool is I'm trying to think about like all the stuff UOG has released over the last year. And I would say what keeps me constantly going back to the writing is just seeing stuff that we have not seen before, perhaps. So one of the things was like, well, we haven't seen a bear ancestry. So, in Prophet, or Joshua Birdsong wrote Uplifted Bear that was inspired by Starfinder. You get to see all these really cool stuff that just might not have existed yet. And that you do feel, hey, this would be really cool if this was in the game somewhere. And I think that's what constantly keeps me going back, is just a pure drive of just wanting to see more and more content out there. I think what Tony said was excellent, when it's like, even if you make one person happy, that's made one person's day happier, so even if it doesn't sell well, or it just was like, I didn't, I wouldn't say didn't give it your all, but like, you just like, I feel like this could have been a lot better, then you made somebody's day happier by releasing even the base level product. I think that's really what's incredible about Pathfinder Infinite, is that even if you make one person happy, then for me, that's always a drive to keep writing and just, keep getting better. Is if one person was like, this changed the way I looked at the game, then I'm going to write more stuff that hopefully changes the way you look at the game.
Great. And Tony, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah. So first of all, I think that Vanessa and James are both right. Write what comes from your heart. That matters a lot. However, my perspective when I'm thinking about writing is I always want to come at it from, how many people can I make smile? Like, who is out there and they need something? I'm trying to help those people. Like, I'm trying to solve, like their problems, how they can have a better time at the table. Like, that's what gives me like, the feel good. So when I'm like thinking about inspiration, I like to put myself in like a box. I was like, all right, here's the thing people want. How are you going to help them? Like, how are you going to solve that thing that they're looking to do for their table? How are you going to make it possible to play, like a barbarian that has an animal companion? How are you going to make it to where this, one faction of Fire's Finest, works a little bit different? And for us, for Team Plus, it's gotten even wilder now, because now we do ranked choice voting for our upcoming, choices. And we typically have ideas already kind of worked up for directions we can take with those book fructs. And I don't know that that's necessarily what everybody else needs to be doing. So I will just say that, as well as write something that you want to write, make sure you're inspired. That's where the good stuff comes from first. But if you can also write something that you think that somebody else really wants, that somebody else doesn't have, or something that will make another table, have a good time, that's the next, rung of the ladder, I think.
Awesome. Great answer. All right. So, really quick answer for this. Lord Greyhawk in chat asks, can Infinite products include Backpage ads for other tied-in products? The answer is yes, they can, and they do. You could find examples of that. The first one that comes to mind is QueerFinder has ads for other Infinite products. Yes, you can. Now, here's one again for everybody. What is your, and we'll do this before we get into, as the panel is coming to a close, talking about our own products. But before we talk about our own products, what's your favorite Infinite product that you did not work on?
That's an unfair question. There's so many. Yeah,
it's very just, and it doesn't have to be your all-time favorite. If you change your mind 5 minutes from now, no one's going to blame you. There's so many good things.
One of the things I really like is actually a series of things. So Ashton Sperry, also known as the Game Raccoon on Pathfinder Infinite, has this entire series of stock art that you can use in their very particular style. And I'm looking at it now, there's a Grey Maiden, a Hell Knight, a Grand Duchess, Desna. There's a bunch of different stock art out there that is absolutely gorgeous, and all reasonably priced, that you could definitely get either for use in like a home game or even to use in your products. It's such cool stuff. I might make my next character by browsing their art and just picking a character and being like, that's who I'm going to play.
Nice.
I love their pieces. They're so pretty. Like, every time a new one comes up, I'm like, oh wow, like, Just they're gorgeous.
Good stuff.
Right. Do you have one, James? Any random products you want to shout out to? Anything that comes to mind when we say favorite product?
The difficult thing is they said that we didn't have a hand in creating, and I've worked with so many authors over the year.
Yeah.
That my hand has been in a lot of them. I would say if I had to give a shout out, would be to Archon. I know like I have a bias there because we've been working with Archon since after his Brawler came out, and we've worked with every class he's worked on since then. But he has such a unique perspective on class design that I truly am just blown away every time he's just like, James, I got a new class. I'm just like, hit me with it. You know, I want to know it immediately because he has such a great mind and a sense for creativity that I would say anything with an Archon title on it is instantly like 10 times better just because of the passion behind every word he ever writes. And I truly, yeah, Archon would be, if I had to go with a single line, it would definitely be Archon titles.
All right. And Tony, anything you want to shout out to?
Yeah, I reject that question. I'm going to say a lot of people. So, I like the Parlor Poet, the Glorian Unleashed, NPC Index line is fantastic as well. All of the Queer Finder issues. The second one is absolutely fantastic. We actually did a rundown of that one recently. EOG's Symbiote, Archon's got lots of stuff. The Archivist just dropped. Let's see. Simon Hunter is doing a series of tasks and deeds, which is fantastic. And then, of course, Vellum and Lace. And then there's the Spell Trickster line from Dustin Knight. Some of you might have heard Papa Fox. And then Kitsune of Galarian. And if I missed you, I'm sorry, but I have big love for you. You were all fantastic. I love everything I see on Infinite. I'm amazed at how talented the group of people that publish there are. It's truly amazing to see new content come out that really is inspired every time.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I started my former review show. Was I couldn't decide. There was just so much good stuff, and I wanted people to see it. I wanted people to use it, so I just started gushing about every book I could get my hands on there. In fact, you pretty much took any of the ones that I wanted to shout out to. You've pretty much taken there. I'm going to use this as an Oh yeah. I am going to use this as an opportunity though to answer somebody else's question and also point out. I did really love how I believe it was called Ooze Folk of Galarian. Yes, Ooze Folk of Galarian. I love how they integrated in first edition Starfinder and second edition into the same book. So you get the lore for all three, with some, of course, added lore for the Starfinder one to make it fit the new setting. And then the mechanics to all three, it made it a really strong product that helps inspire its use in any of your favorite Paizo games. That's always welcome. All right.
Value.
So if go ahead.
No, I was just saying value. Like that's amazing, valuable. Value.
If you have any further questions, you could check us out either on our AMAs on the Discord or at infinite.net, where there is always discussions and places to ask questions about Pathfinder Infinite. We're just going to go through real quick though and to discuss what we've been working on and our latest products. So please go ahead, Vanessa.
Oh, goodness. So right now we're at a bit of a hiatus with Vellum and Lace, but we're planning the next arc. Hopefully we'll be able to start publishing those again soon. But right now the entire first narrative arc is available on Pathfinder Infinite, and I believe, I wish Helen's in chat, she can let us know. I believe there's a bundle, so you can get a discount if you want to read the whole thing. But the first prologue, the episode 0, is already at a really steep discount, so if you want to see what you're getting into, buy that. It's like less than $1, I think, and you can check it out and see what Vellum and Lace is all about. It is as I said, disaster queer sisters, adopted sisters, running amok in the city of Absalom and getting into all sorts of trouble. So,
Excellent, excellent. I went ahead and dropped the link to that in chat.
thank you.
No problem. So, James, what are y'all up to?
For EOG specifically, we are currently working on Monstrous Beasts: A Guide to Friend Them, as we are currently wrapping up our Kickstarter that did like I think 9.6K. And so we're currently just waiting on a ton of art. But in the back burner, we did announce this recently, so I don't get in trouble. We're working on Mech Finder, a Pathfinder and D&D 5e hack. It is I've sent it some demo copies off to a few people. And so far the reception has been really well, but we also I just want to keep shouting people out because obviously now is the time, perfect, great opportunity. We've been working with people inside the Infinite community to make the project even better. So both Simon Hunter, John Holmes, and Archon have all played, and Derry have all played key parts into developing Mech Finder into what it is today. And we're working on tons of smaller products in the meantime. I can't go into details on all of them right now, but let's just say we don't have to wait a year for a Centaur.
Awesome. And Tony, anything you're excited to announce or shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just got, it feels just, but we released Firebrands Plus last month, which is basically like a little bit more of a deep dive into the Firebrands and expanded some new options to them and kind of just gave the whole thing more things. One of the big things about this book that was pretty excited about was that it has crew rules, which is basically kind of a play on animal companions in the Entourage feat, had a baby and is a little bit more limited, but it gives you kind of this little crew that you can kind of turn into a mini troop on occasion if you can inspire them into a fight. So we felt that was pretty appropriate for freedom fighters to try to inspire people to action and kind of put together, crews of their own to try to get jobs done. And plus everybody likes pirates. So we've got our wonderful Firebrand on the cover swinging in front of a pit. It looks like a pit fiend, I think. Maybe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to go with pit fiend.
I love those cover illustrations.
Yeah, but we still have we have a bundle right now. You can actually get all of Year 1 Team Plus content. Today is actually the 1 year anniversary of Witches Plus, so we were very excited. And I love this cover. Derry did this cover in 1 day. He just sat down and crunched the whole thing. So it's just a custom cover for the bundle that has all 4 of our Classes Plus iconics on it. So I fell in love absolutely immediately. On the horizon, we're looking to take down Magus or Bagus Plus. I've been contented on the name a couple of times. I call them Magus. So Magus Plus is where we're headed next, and we've already turned over a few pieces of content to the playtesters, and we're very excited to get that out. We hope next month. Looks like what we should be able to do.
Excellent. And anyone watching can find a number of my own products up on Pathfinder Infinite, such as Spell Tricksters, Starstone the Ascension. One of them, Spell Tricksters of Last Wall, up there is in the bundle, the Pathfinder Infinite bundle that I definitely want to touch on, which is being linked in chat right there, where you can get a ton of books for a great deal. It's the PaizoCon 23 Mega Bundle. Definitely check that out. Also, I have a little simulated trading card game called Starstone the Ascension, based on a paragraph from Lost Omens Grand Bazaar that lets you play a game with your hero cards between your PCs. It was really fun to write. I really had a fun time playing it myself. It's just silly fun and shows that you could write pretty much anything you want, and you'd be surprised how many people respond with, "I've been looking for something like this for so long." And you're like, "Oh, wow. I thought that was just a vanity project, but awesome. Glad to hear that you liked it." Oh, yeah. And there is tons of great Starfinder and Pathfinder products up on Infinite, but we have run out of time, so we will just end by telling people where they could find us. So I'm Dustin Knight. You can find me at the PaizoCon Discord. You could also find me at the Infinite Discord at infinite.net, and you can find me at Twitter at Warlock Kitsune.
I'm Vanessa Hoskins. You can find me over on Twitter at NinjaCatVanessa, or come over to the Pathfinder Events Discord and find my AMA and ask me all sorts of questions.
I'm James Beck. You can find me at GeekJames513 on Twitter, where I go absolutely insane about Pathfinder 2e and everything about it. Or you can follow at Eldridge Osiris on Twitter to keep up to date with everything we got going on there.
And I'm Tony Saunders, and you can find me on Reddit, and you can find me on at XX the Faceless Man or Faceless Man 9707 on Discord, and then at the Team Plus Twitter account, which is at the Team Plus.
Excellent. So thank you, everyone, for showing up. Thank you for our audience for submitting some great questions. Our next panel is Check Yourself Self-Editing for Writers. So I highly recommend anyone who wants to write on Pathfinder Infinite stay for that, because even if you hire an editor, knowing how to self-edit yourself is an invaluable skill. Thank you very much for the time, and thank you, Paizo, for giving us both the platform of this panel and the platform of Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite as a whole.